Show. We welcome from the United Way of South Central Michigan, Marketing and Communications Lead, Rick Chambers. Hi, Rick.
Mark, good to see you again.
Good to see you, and happy mergerversary.
Yes, it is. We're just a little over a year since the merger. It's hard to believe that time has passed so quickly.
So now that we've had our full year of the merger, what's the United Way up to this summer?
So a lot of what we've been doing over the last few months is getting a better sense of what has been the value of the merger in terms of making an impact on our communities. And we put some numbers together. We actually, and they may show up on the screen here shortly, but talking about the impact has been in total over $26 million, or nearly $26 million in impact, and that's included some of the grants that we've made to program partners, a lot of the United Way-led initiatives, government-funded grants. We just simply recently brought in about $460,000 from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, 70 grand of which went into helping with shelter and food here in Jackson County. So a lot of these numbers are just impacting not only the region as a whole, but Jackson County in particular.
Wow, well, that's a lot of money.
It is, it is. And shows really the value. We talked about one of the things is being able to grow our resources and have more connections and more opportunities to bring more money in the community, and that's happening.
And to me, that's really amazing because several years ago when I was on the board, we were looking at like $1 million that we had to support different things in the community. And what a change. How much of that would you say does the impact of the merger, combining the United Ways, increase rather the total dollar amount or the impact by dollar in our community?
So the impact by dollar, this is the interesting thing that we found out in the past year, that for every dollar donated to our United Way, we're actually able to bring in $3.50 in addition from other resources. And that's really important when you think about diversifying the revenue stream, as it were, right? So making sure that we're able to tap those opportunities that the merger scale gives us to bring more resources to address some of the needs in Jackson County and beyond.
Yeah, so the COVID, we got a lot of support through COVID, through the federal government that did, you actually were charged with distributing a lot of that.
Yeah, we helped manage a lot of the COVID relief funds that were going on in the different communities, including here. And the beauty of that is we actually got to go to, our CEO, Chris Sargent, went to Washington, D.C., and talked with the Biden administration about the value of having that sort of nonprofit and government partnership in order to make a difference for folks in our communities. So it sets a real great example of what we can do when we keep leaning into partnership.
A few weeks ago, you came out with the latest ALICE report, and I know we've talked about that many times. So in case someone isn't familiar, ALICE is an acronym for what?
Asset limited, income constrained, and employed. So what we used to call the working poor, right? But it's a little bit more specific around the fact that these are full-time working folks that are just struggling to make ends meet.
And I think what I think you use as an example that it's families, folks that live pretty much paycheck to paycheck.
Correct. So, and that's also gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit about financial hardship beyond what happens below the federal poverty levels. A lot of times we talk about poverty. That level is actually probably not a good, accurate representation of what financial hardship is. And so the ALICE measure helps us better understand what are families really facing, what are the challenges they have, and how, most importantly, how can we address those?
All right, so out of the people that live in Jackson County, 160,000, we have what percentage of households are ALICE households?
So 42% of the households in Jackson County are below that ALICE threshold, which is the level of income you need in order to pay for just the essentials to get by. So 12% below the poverty level, and then an additional 30% up to that line. And so we're really focused on trying to raise awareness of that population and some of the challenges they face. And in fact, now the latest to come out on ALICE, in fact, this is the first chance I've had to talk about this.
Breaking news?
You're breaking news right here. About 2 weeks ago, the United for ALICE, which is the research arm of United Way around ALICE, it released the Alice Essentials Index. Now that's a measure of what financially struggling families actually have to pay for the essentials to get by. It's different from the Consumer Price Index, which measures things that people, regardless of income level, are paying for on a regular basis. So things like lawn service, for example, which Alice families obviously are probably not doing. The Alice Essentials Index says this is what it really costs a family to make ends meet. And what we found really is two interesting things out of that. One is that the Alice Essentials Index is outpacing inflation. So for all the things that those of us that have been dealing with inflation, all of us have been facing inflation, the costs of those essentials are even rising faster than the inflation rate for the vast majority of Alice households. The other part of it is it's also outpacing their wage increases. In fact, the interesting thing out of this is they took the average wage of a retail salesperson, which a lot of Alice individuals are doing retail sales. And then over the past 15 years, using the Alice Essentials Index as a measure, discovered that those folks have actually lost a full year's worth of wages.
What?
Yeah.
A whole year?
A whole year's worth of wages by looking at, in terms of what their wage increases have been, how wages have grown over that period of time compared to how the costs of those essentials have increased.
Wow.
So a real challenge, and that's focusing a lot of the work that we're doing as United Way.
So, as you say, a lot of the work that you're doing is to address the population, the Alice population. So, you're not able to, and you're not giving people money.
Correct.
But what kinds of things can you do to help the Alice population?
So there are a number of things that we are looking at doing. One of the great things that's happening right here in Jackson County is our Program Assistance Center, which is helping with utility assistance. But that's sort of the entree, right? So we're able to connect with these families who are struggling to pay their energy bills, and then have the conversation of, and what else are you dealing with in terms of your financial struggles? And once we hear from those folks, well, I'm struggling with my rent, I can't keep up with my medicines, whatever it is, we can connect them with the resources that are out there and hopefully get them on a better path so that they're able to deal with those kinds of issues directly.
So summer is typically the time leading up to the annual campaign. You get that usually started in the fall. So any plans in place yet?
We're working on it. One of the nice things about, I think, this year's campaign is we're going to have a whole bunch of materials to be able to talk about the work that we're doing and the impact that we're having. Last year we were just a few months into the merger, and so we had some ideas, but we weren't able to talk holistically. This year we can. I think there's going to be a lot more visibility in some things. We're also talking, one of the things we're hearing from folks is we want to get back to in-person types of activities. And while I'm afraid we're not going to be able to pull off a cardboard boat race this year as much as we wanted to, we even talked about it.
Takes the pressure off us.
Yes, for now, yes. I'm still hoping we're going to bring that back at some point, but not this year. Well, we would want to do some sort of in-person visible kickoff event. So we're talking about that. So there'll be a lot more talking about this is what your dollar is doing, this is the impact that we collectively are having, and building on those relationships.
Well, I know you like to reach people in Jackson and you use JTV, which is great, but there's some other things that you're working on as a communicator of the United Way message.
I want to start by saying I've been doing this for 40 years, and I've got right now working with one of the greatest groups of marketing communications professionals I've ever had the honor of working with. The team that we have working with United Way is just fantastic, and they're totally dedicated to our work. So we're looking at some things like how can we do a better job of helping our communities understand the impact that we're having. Some of it's the numbers we talked about. One of the things we keep hearing every year, and this is a little bit of a frustration for me, but because we're always out there talking in the community, but we hear people saying, look, I don't seem to hear about United Way except for campaign time. And while I may be frustrated about that, the reality is that's what people are experiencing. So we have to do something about that. We have to respond to that. And so we're looking for ways to get more information in front of them. What we hear is digital tools are really important. And so we're looking at trying to build some sort of digital community where people feel engaged and connected and aware and plugged into the work that we're doing. We'll look at doing more types of in-person events. We did 3 in May, including one here in Jackson, where we got to honor former United Way of Jackson County CEO Ken Toll, which was great to be able to acknowledge him for the great impact he's had in this community. So those are the kind of things that we're looking to do and just be that much more visible.
All right, whether it's campaign season or not, people can find out more at your website.
UnitedForSCMI.org, and we're also on social media, and as of this week, we're on Threads.
Threads, one of 100 million on Threads.
That's right, exactly.
All right, great to see you. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Rick Chambers, Marketing and Communications Lead with United Way of South Central Michigan.